Africa is often seen as a continent of stagnation and poverty, but some countries are defying this stereotype and growing rapidly. Africa is a vast and diverse continent, and its countries have experienced very different paths of economic development. While some countries like Botswana, Rwanda, and Ethiopia have seen impressive growth, others like Zimbabwe and Somalia have languished. So, why have some African countries managed to take off while others have been left behind, remaining stuck in the mud? Is it good governance, access to natural resources, or something else? If you are interested to know, let's go. In the late 1990s, Africa was in the midst of a major economic transformation. Many countries were transitioning from socialist economies to market-based economies and were facing several challenges. These included high levels of debt, currency devaluation, hyperinflation, and political instability. Some countries like Uganda began to turn things around by implementing sound economic policies. But others, like the Democratic Republic of Congo, are still struggling to find their footing. How are African countries doing? It's a mixed picture for African countries today. There have been some success stories, such as Rwanda, which has seen strong economic growth and poverty reduction. But many countries are still struggling, like the Central African Republic, which has been plagued by civil war and economic instability. Overall, Africa is making progress in many areas, but it still faces major challenges, such as rising inequality and the impacts of climate change. Non-resource African countries in Africa, like Kenya, Ethiopia, and Ghana, have made progress in diversifying their economies and reducing their dependence on commodity exports. They have developed industries like tourism, manufacturing, and services, and have attracted more foreign investment. In contrast, resource-rich countries such as Nigeria, Angola, and South Africa have struggled to diversify their economies and have been hit hard by the volatility of commodity prices. This leaves us with the big question: why are these African countries improving while others are not? Several factors have contributed to the differing fortunes of these African countries. One key factor is governance. Countries like Botswana and Rwanda have strong institutions and relatively low levels of corruption, while others like the Democratic Republic of Congo have weak institutions and rampant corruption. In addition, countries like Rwanda and Ethiopia have invested heavily in infrastructure, education, and healthcare, while others have not. Another factor is the role of the private sector. Countries like Kenya have seen the rise of dynamic entrepreneurs, while others have not. While many conservatives blame corruption and poor governance, ignoring the challenges many African countries faced, many left-wingers claim that Africa's poverty is a result of the former colonial powers' desire to keep it that way, rather than the decisions made by the continent's leaders. Let's now examine the specific reasons why comparable nations have adopted different approaches, providing insightful insights. The first lesson in building an effective state comes from Burundi and Rwanda. East African nations Rwanda and Burundi have quite similar histories, despite their divergent paths. Both nations endured horrific genocides in the 1990s, yet Rwanda's economy has grown to become one of the fastest in Africa, while Burundi remains one of the poorest countries in the world. One of the key factors that has made the difference is leadership. Rwanda has had strong visionary leadership that has prioritized economic development and good governance. In contrast, Burundi has had a series of weak and corrupt leaders who have failed to create a stable and prosperous country. The second is economic policy that matters. Tanzania and Kenya are two countries in East Africa that have taken different paths to development. Kenya has pursued a more pro-business and market-oriented approach, while Tanzania has followed a more socialist and interventionist approach. As a result, Kenya has seen stronger economic growth and has become one of the most dynamic economies in Africa. In contrast, Tanzania's economy has lagged, though it has made some progress in recent years. In terms of living standards, Kenya has made more progress in reducing poverty and improving education and healthcare. But both countries still have a long way to go in improving the lives of their citizens. Zimbabwe and Botswana are two countries in southern Africa that offer a fascinating contrast in economic and political development. Zimbabwe was once one of the most prosperous countries in Africa, but has seen a dramatic decline since the early 2000s due to a combination of poor leadership, economic mismanagement, and political instability. In contrast, Botswana has been one of the most successful countries in Africa with strong economic growth and a stable democratic political system. While both countries face challenges, Botswana's success shows that good governance and economic policy can make a big difference. If we're talking about Africa's most successful economy, it's hard to look past South Africa. South Africa is the largest economy in Africa and has seen consistent economic growth over the past few decades. The country has a developed financial system, a skilled workforce, and a stable political system. It has also benefited from a wealth of natural resources, including gold, diamonds, and coal. However, the country still faces significant challenges, including high levels of inequality and unemployment. While South Africa is often considered the most successful economy in Africa, another country that deserves mention is Mauritius. Mauritius is a small island economy in the Indian Ocean. It is classified as Africa's most liberal economy, and among the most competitive in sub-Saharan Africa, it has become one of the most developed countries in Africa. The country has a strong services sector, a skilled workforce, and a well-developed infrastructure. It has also benefited from its location, which has made it a hub for international trade and investment. Mauritius has also been praised for its democratic system and good governance. There has been historical evidence against pessimistic projections made by Nobel winner James Meade. Meade was a British economist who made major contributions to the field of international economics. He was a strong advocate for international cooperation and institutions like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. He also proposed the idea of a basic needs approach to development, which emphasized the importance of providing necessities like food, shelter, and healthcare to the poor. Meade was one of the authors of the Herod Domar Meller-Meade report, which argued that there was no way for developing countries to escape a poverty trap and catch up with the developed world. However, the performance of countries like South Korea, Singapore, and Mauritius has proven this theory wrong. Mauritius has been one of these success stories of the East Asian miracle. The country started from a very low base, with high levels of poverty and a largely agrarian economy. But it has managed to transform itself into a modern, diversified economy. This has been driven by a combination of factors, including government investment in infrastructure, a focus on export-oriented industries, and strong support for education and training. As a result, poverty levels have fallen dramatically, and life expectancy has increased. And even though the country has few natural resources, it has managed to achieve a high standard of living. Both Madagascar and Mauritius are island countries in the Indian Ocean, but their economic performance has been very different. Mauritius has been a success story, while Madagascar has struggled with political instability and corruption. One of the main differences has been the quality of governance. Mauritius has had relatively strong institutions and has been able to maintain political stability. In contrast, Madagascar has experienced numerous coups and political turmoil, which has led to a breakdown of the rule of law. As a result, it has not been able to achieve the same level of economic development as Mauritius. The main problem of African countries is corruption and mismanagement. Nigeria is the largest oil producer in Africa, and yet it remains one of the poorest countries on the continent. One of the main reasons for this is the so-called resource curse. This is the idea that countries with large natural resource endowments often have poor economic performance. There are several reasons for this, including the fact that natural resources can lead to rent-seeking behavior, which can undermine the rule of law and create a culture of corruption. In addition, the volatility of commodity prices can lead to boom and bust cycles, which can make it difficult for countries. Nations with high levels of corruption draw less outside investment. Their prices are higher and their tax base is lower. In Nigeria, the tax-to-GDP ratio is just approximately 8%, while it is 25% in South Africa. South Africa, the global economic powerhouse, has effectively diversified its economy with a rising and sizable middle class while being susceptible to corruption and mismanagement. South Africa has the second largest and most developed economy in Africa in terms of industrialization, diversification, and technology. Africa is undoubtedly expanding, but this growth is already being driven by investment and domestic consumption. Increasing regional commerce will change this dynamic. Diverse things are currently happening in the African economies, and fundamental forces are causing them to grow in diverse ways. Africa is navigating a complex environment with opportunities and challenges from all over the world. Understanding the specifics that differentiate the economic performance of any nation is essential. Despite these difficulties, some African countries are managing to develop in a sustainable manner that benefits all citizens. Through innovative thinking, collaboration with neighboring nations, and environmentally friendly initiatives, they are illuminating a route toward robust and equitable economic growth. We hope this was informative. Please like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget to turn on your notifications.